Welcome to the Be Real podcast with your hosts, Joe Cebula and Bobby Maximus. What are we going to talk about today, Bobby?
Today, we're going to talk about why you can't lose weight.
I feel like this is very topical. You and I have been talking about this a lot, in particular with my situation. So I'm excited to dial down into this. I think this might get a little personal.
And I was about to say specifically if you're over 40 years old, although this advice could apply to everybody, it's just more pertinent for people over 40 because the stuff we're going to talk about, you just have to have dialed in. A 20-year-old.
Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, said that the difference or the needs of Olympic athletes and the needs of our grandparents differ by degree, but not kind. And so I think that's an important perspective to have when we talk about this. So like when you're over 40, and we've said this before, the margins of error narrow a lot. When you're younger, you can get away with a lot more stuff.
Yeah. And I was about to say, when you're 20, you can, look at a diet, like literally read about a diet on the internet and lose weight. You can look at a treadmill and do a little bit of exercise and get yourself fit. But as you get older, you need to dial this right in.
Yeah.
So you're over 40, you're trying to lose weight, you're struggling, you got a 20-pound gut, you have a dad bod, you have man boobs, like whatever you want to call it. The number one reason you're not losing weight is you don't work out enough. People don't do enough activity. There's this whole myth about your metabolism slowing down as you get older. Your metabolism doesn't slow down. You get less active. I want you to take it back to your 20s, Joe, when you were fighting, when you were doing taekwondo at the University of Iowa, when you were running up and down stairs, when you were moving, when you were active all day. Your calorie burn was probably really, really high. But now I want you to fast forward into your 40s. You got a couple of kids, you got a desk job, you're sitting around all day, you're paying somebody because you have the money to shovel your driveway, to cut your grass, to come in and clean your house because you have a house cleaner. And I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about everybody out there. Your level of activity has plummeted. Now, you blame it on your metabolism and the fact you got older, but that's not what the problem is. The problem is these activities that you used to do that you don't do anymore are no longer there.
Yeah.
And so now, your metabolism is slower because you're just not burning as many calories on a day-to-day basis. So the reason you're not losing weight, you need to move around more. You need to exercise
and we talk about just general conditioning from like an athletic standpoint. Like if you're showing up at the gym, you're doing your interval training, you're doing your aerobic base building, and you do that for 20 or 30 years, your conditioning level is going to be very high. But on the flip side, if you're deconditioning, like your body is going to be conditioned to the fact that you don't move, that you don't exercise. And so like it swings that pendulum really hard the other direction. So you've got 20 or 30 years of not training under your belt. That's what you've been doing. That's what you're conditioned to be.
But so take it away, Joe. I feel like you jumped the shark a little bit. Take it away from conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing on a day-to-day basis the activity you used to do. I used the house cleaning example. When's the last time you cleaned your house from top to bottom? It's a ton of hard work. Like if you're up and down the stairs, you're running a vacuum, you're picking stuff up, you're putting it down, you're go. In 2 hours of solid house cleaning, you can burn 500 calories, 800 calories, 1,000 calories. Like you could be dripping sweat, but you don't do that anymore. You hired a house cleaner.
Yeah.
And then you think cutting your lawn. If you have a third of an acre property and you've got to cut the lawn and it's going to take you an hour of pushing a lawnmower, well, there's 500 to 800 calories a week of cardiovascular activity. If you live in Minnesota, and last time I checked, Joe, your driveway was about a half mile long.
And uphill.
Do you shovel that or do you pay somebody to come in and do it?
I shovel it. Yeah.
Right. If you shovel it, there's another 1,000 calories. You pay somebody to do it. There's 1,000 calories gone a week that you don't burn. Not because you're lazy, just because you have the money to actually do these things that you don't want to do anymore.
Well, and objectively, the work can suck. So there's motivation to pass it off, right?
And when you were in university, you were on your feet all day. You were moving all day. I mean, sure, you had 18 classes of, 18 hours of class a week or 16 hours of class a week of sitting down, but that's nothing compared to a 44-hour work week. You have a 44-hour-a-week desk job. You just don't have the calorie burn. So again, you think your metabolism has slowed down. It hasn't. You've slowed down. You don't do the activity. Now, when we talk about the conditioning part where that plays in, you don't work out enough and you don't work out hard enough. Somebody like me that's got 30 years of conditioning, I can go in the gym for an hour and create a massive calorie burn, if you will. I can create a massive training effect because I have that 30 years of conditioning. If you don't have that 30 years of conditioning and you're off the couch, your workout isn't that valuable by comparison. It's not efficient because you're just not burning a lot. You're
right.
exhausted.
Like you're getting winded walking up a flight of stairs and you think that's a good workout for the day.
Yeah. And so how are you supposed to maximize your hour of working out, Joe, if you have no conditioning? So the number one problem is you don't work out enough. You don't exercise enough. You're not active enough. The second problem is because of your lack of conditioning, when you go to work out or be active, you're moving at a slow pace. It's just not efficient. So guys, listen, I know this sucks as you get off the couch, but there's going to be a period of 3 to 4 months where you're spinning your wheels in the mud. You got
to build that capacity, right? That takes time.
Yeah. The good news is the more fit you get, the easier this gets, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can do an hour and you're moving so slow, you're only burning 300 calories and you're not going at a hard pace. Yeah, it's a really hard hour. But once you can move hard for an hour, your calorie burn increases, your exercise efficiency increases. If we talk numbers, Joe, if you can do 1,000 squats in an hour, actually real example. Last night, I was at my kids' wrestling tournament. I was going to miss my second workout of the day, but he was doing dual meets. So I had a break in between his duels. In a 20-minute break, I was able to do 298 push-ups.
Wow.
Not the greatest workout of all time, but 298 push-ups is 298 push-ups. If I was completely out of shape, maybe in 20 minutes, I only get 50 push-ups. Maybe I only get 60. Maybe I only get 30. That's the point I'm trying to make. When you talk about the capacity, the greater your capacity is, the more work you can get in a shorter period of time. And that becomes valuable in your 40s too, because if you're working a 44-hour work week, if you've got kids, if you've got a wife, if you've got a job, time's at a premium. You don't have 4 hours to do the train.
Yep.
Right. And by the way, Joe, that's why you hired the house cleaner. See all the sports together. That's why you hired somebody to shovel the driveway. That's why you hired somebody to mow the lawn, because you don't have time.
Well, and this is that whole thing of working out for an hour. That's only 4% of your day.
Yep.
It's like, what are you doing the other 96% of the day? And if it's
you're
literally
shape,
just sitting at a desk doing nothing,
you're beat up, you're sitting around, you're not getting anything done. So that's number one, the exercise portion. The second portion is going to be your eating.
Yep.
You probably eat like trash. That's just a fact. And combined with the lack of activity, now you're putting on all kinds of weight. Listen, I get it. You're comfortable. You're happy. You're emotionally eating because maybe you're miserable, because there's a bunch of reasons why people eat like garbage, but your eating is probably not dialed.
Yeah. And I like that point that comfort is an obstacle to overcome, because it is too hard to motivate yourself. This is why people say, I don't feel motivated. It's like, well, why should you? Like you're doing okay. Again, if there's money in the bank, you like your job, you've got a beautiful wife, kids that you adore, like where's the motivation to go force yourself to suffer? Yep.
And at the same token, Joe, because we're talking about the good side, there's also the bad side. It's funny how they're complete opposites, but they work the same way. You're going through a divorce. You have a terrible relationship with your kids. You hate your job. You hate your reflection in the mirror. You're miserable. And guess what you're doing every night now? You're emotionally eating.
Yeah.
Trying to get that comfort, and you're getting it through food. So you probably eat poorly. But the second thing, Joe, is when you do try to lose weight, when you do try to get fit. Again, when you were younger and you were doing all that activity, you could just kind of make some better food choices and you could experience massive weight loss, or you could put on muscle, or you could get more fit. But as you get older, now you have to track. Now you have to weigh. Now you have to measure. Now you have to write down what you're putting in your body. And it shocks me the people that think they eat a certain way, but when they write it down on paper, the truth comes to the light, and they don't eat as well as they thought they were eating. They eat way more calories than they thought.
There's all kinds of behaviors, like eating food off your kid's plate, and then they're not actually logging that, right? Like grabbing a snack mindlessly at the office and not actually counting that in their log, if they're logging at all.
Well, how's this? And I'm actually looking for my phone, but I probably don't need it. Olive oil. You put olive oil in your salad as a dressing. You decide the store-bought dressing's no good. You're going to do the healthy thing. You're going to have some olive oil. But rather than measure out a tablespoon, you just pour from the big container. An extra tablespoon of olive oil has between 100 and 120 calories.
Yeah.
If you just did that daily on your salad, 365 days of the year, by the end of the year, that's 36,000 extra calories. You're 10 pounds fatter now, literally, because you just poured out of the container versus measured. And so now you take that across the board. Did you have 4 ounces of ribeye like you thought you did? Or did you have 6 ounces? Did you have 6 ounces of chicken breast? Or did you have 9 ounces? When you decided to just grab a handful of walnuts, did you have the quarter cup that you were supposed to have? Or did you have half a cup? Pretty soon, you're up 100,000 calories for the year, or 120,000 calories for the year. So even when you do decide to get healthy and make healthy food choices, if you're not weighing, you're not measuring, you're not writing stuff down, you have no idea what you consumed. You know, the average American, Joe, consumes 636 alcoholic beverages a year.
Wow.
That's
just an average.
That's the average. But my guess is if you asked your drinking buddy, how many drinks you have last year? Oh, I don't know, 300. Like it sounds like a lot. Meanwhile, it's 600, 700, 800, 900. Like you really have no idea what you actually consumed. And when it comes to bad food, you're probably always going to lowball it.
Yeah.
Like how much soda you drink a day? Oh, I have a couple of cans. No, you actually have a gallon a day. But you're going to say a couple of cans, you're always going to go low. So if you're not weighing and measuring and writing this down, you've got no clue what you're actually doing, and you're going to be spinning your wheels, and that's why you're not losing weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be really mentally hard. I know this is one of my struggles. I hate trying to keep a log. It just becomes a bear. But again, how bad do you want it?
Yep. How many French fries did you eat at Culver's last week? Like how many chips did you have? How many, when you just reach into a big bag of chips and eat, one of the things I actually like they do in my home country in Canada, Joe, you have to put the calories for the entire bag or the entire package.
Yeah, it can't be 2.5 servings per package, right?
Exactly, where you have no clue what you're like, oh, these chips are only 120, calories per serving. Meanwhile, there's 19 servings in a bag. Like, no. This bag has 1,556 calories or whatever it is, because it's really easy when you're just mindlessly eating to go over.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned like getting the fries at Culver's, right? Because you can Google that, how many calories are in a bag of fries at Culver's, but how do you know the bag that you got weighed the same as the one that they measured, right?
Well, that's exactly it, because
there's a lot of range for error there.
The kid that's working there just put an extra scoop in or whatever it is, right? Now, the other thing is, Joe, you mentioned this earlier, and I think it was a really great point. What happens when you have the 5 extra fries from your one kid's bag? The 8 extra fries from the other kid's bag.
Well, it's innocent. They got one French fry left on their plate, so you're just popping it in your mouth rather than wasting.
And on the way out, you grab one of their chicken
God knows,
nuggets.
if you throw that French fry away, we might end up with a shortage of French fries. And that could be the last French fry you ever have, right?
Well, you always said there's no pizza shortage, right?
Yeah,
you have
there's no shortage of pizza.
There's 2 slices left, and you just got to eat them. But what about ketchup? You just stick ketchup in a little container, and you didn't measure it, and you start across the board, the 100 times a week you do something like this starts to add up. So here's the deal, and we'll wrap up the podcast by saying this. You're in your 40s, you're overweight, you're unfit, you want to get fit, you want to lose that weight. You have to put in some effort. You can't guess. You can't hypothesize. If you were good at guessing and hypothesizing, you wouldn't be overweight.
We'd be talking about this.
Right? You wouldn't be talking about this. You need to go all in. You need to do this right. You need to treat it like a household project where you're hanging a picture. You got to get out the level. You got to measure from the roof. You've got to treat it almost even like a scientific experiment. So I
love that. I love that because nobody will hang a picture without like going to get the proper tools, right? But when it comes to nutrition, they'll just wing it.
I'm just going to wing it. So you need to track your exercise. You probably, Joe, is a good measure of activity. And I have a love-hate relationship with this, but honestly, track your steps. Get a step tracking app.
Get an Apple Watch or whatever, a Fitbit, something. How
many steps are you taking? Do you have any idea? Because you think you're doing 5,000, you're actually doing 2. So get a step counter, right? Wear the Apple Watch that tells you how many calories you're burning in a day. When you go to exercise, actually wear a heart rate monitor, start paying attention, actually start looking at things like the speed on the treadmill, percentage of 1 rep max, how many reps you actually need, like track volume somehow, but actually start to pay attention to your activity and exercise across the board. And then when it comes to eating, I need you to sit down. I need you to write out a diet plan. I need you to weigh. I need you to measure. I need you to get stuff. And even if you're getting stuff in packages, make sure they're pre-constructed little. That's where meal plans can work, Joe, where you get that mail-in meal plan and it's like 400 calories and you can't go over. I'm not saying they're always the healthiest thing in the world, although there are some really healthy choices, but at least then you've got some form of calorie control. Because if you're not doing this, like if you're wondering, hey, I think I've been putting in, here's what I'm trying to say. I think I've been putting in all this effort, but man, I'm only losing 1 pound a month. You're not putting in, I get that you feel you're putting in effort. You're probably not putting in as much as you think.
Yeah, and maybe that is the secret of Hollywood trainers, right? Is that they can afford to hire somebody who tells them exactly how hard they're working and tells them exactly what to eat. Because I hear that all the time from people. I just need you to follow me around and slap the donut out of my hand. It's like you can't afford what I would charge for that. But you can't. You got this Hollywood actor who's got $1 billion paycheck coming. He can afford it. So it ain't because he's special. It ain't because the training is a secret that nobody knows. You're going to have to take this on yourself.
That's exactly it. And really, really pay attention. If you're going to put the work in, you can't go halfway with this. Yeah. So there's your secret. There are no secrets. There are no hacks, no gimmicks, no shortcuts, no 3 easy payments of $9.99. You just really got to put in some effort and you really got to pay attention. And you really got to pay attention in the margins, weighing, measuring, tracking, all of the things. This has been another episode of the Be Real podcast. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends, and hopefully you got some out of this. I know you did.